Welcome to Strictly Facts, a guide to Caribbean history and culture, hosted by me, Dr. Alexandria Miller. Strictly Facts teaches the history, politics, and activism of the Caribbean and connects these themes to contemporary music and popular culture. Welcome, people, wagwan panwataguan, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Strictly Facts, a guide to Caribbean history and culture, where we explore the stories, people, and ideas that shape the Caribbean and its global diaspora. I'm your host, Alexandria, and today's episode is a bit of a check-in, as well as a look ahead, as we are on the cusp of one of our favorite months of the year. Before we get into today's topic, I just want to take a moment to reflect on everything that's been happening over the past few months. Many of you joined us for our Strictly Facts Women's History Month campaign, where we highlighted Caribbean women across history, women whose contributions have shaped not only the region, but the world. From artists to activists, scholars to community leaders, it was really important for me to create a space to honor their work in a way that felt intentional and expansive. If you haven't had the chance to engage with our series yet, I encourage you to head over to our website or our social media platforms where you can find the full list of Caribbean women to know. It's a powerful resource and one that I hope to continue to grow as we deepen our understanding of the region's history. And don't go too far, because this June, we're launching another campaign that I'm really excited about, a focus on Caribbean memoirs and biographies. We'll be highlighting works that tell Caribbean stories through personal narrative, offering insight into lived experiences, identity, migration, and memory. Trust me, you're going to want to follow this list, so stay tuned. And I also want to share something a little bit personal. As of last week, I officially graduated with my PhD. I submitted my final manuscript a few weeks ago. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's joined me along this ride and listened to me talk about dissertating and the experiences that I've had over the last few years. To everyone who's listened, supported, shared, and grown with me in this platform, this work has always been something about community, and reaching this milestone while building Strictly Facts alongside it makes it that much more meaningful. I'll be sharing more about my research, what I've been working on, and what I've learned, and what's next in an upcoming episode, so definitely stay tuned for that. Now let's get into today's focus, because June marks Caribbean American Heritage Month here in the US, and this is a moment that truly deserves both celebration and recognition. As we've shared in years past, Caribbean American Heritage Month was officially recognized in 2006, following years of advocacy from Caribbean American organizations who sought to highlight the contributions of Caribbean people and their descendants here in the United States. And as we know, those contributions are immense. From politics to education, music to literature, labor movements to entrepreneurship, Caribbean Americans have played a foundational role in shaping American society. But what makes this month particularly important is not just recognition, it's visibility. Because Caribbean identity in the US is something that sometimes gets absorbed into broader categories that don't fully capture the essence and diversity of the region. Caribbean American Heritage Month gives us an opportunity to celebrate our cultures, affirm our stories, and acknowledge the ways Caribbean people continue to shape life in the US and beyond. But I also want us to think about it as something more, not just a moment of looking back, but a moment of us thinking forward. As Strictly Facts, we spend a lot of time exploring the past, recovering stories, challenging narratives, amplifying voices. But what do we do with this knowledge? How do we use it? That's where our focus for this June comes in. We are thinking about Caribbean futures and what that means for us to take what we know, our histories, our cultures, our cultural practices, and intellectual traditions, and use them to shape what comes next. One thing that is undeniable is this: the Caribbean is globally recognized for our culture, be that through music, food, language, style, our creativity. Our culture travels, it influences, and it inspires. But the question is, how do we move from cultural recognition to structural power? How do we ensure that these things we are celebrated for are also ways that we can sustain ourselves economically, empower our communities, and build lasting systems for future generations? Another piece of this is learning, not just from within the Caribbean, but from other communities across the world. How have others built institutions, preserved cultural knowledge, leveraged creativity into economic and political power? And how can we adapt these lessons in ways that remain true to the Caribbean and our realities? Because Caribbean futures are not just built in isolation, they are built through connection, collaboration, and intentionality. And for those of us in the diaspora, especially here in the US, there's another layer. Caribbean American Heritage Month is not just about identity, it's about responsibility. How do we stay connected to the region, support development beyond remittances, and invest in ideas, institutions, and communities? Because the diaspora is not separate from the Caribbean, we are an extension of it. And before we close, I couldn't help myself in thinking of today's episode without sharing a little bit of our Strictly Facts sounds. Today, I thought of the article Caribbean Man in Space and Time by Kamau Brathwaite. It's a piece that Brathwaite really reflects on the Caribbean person as somebody constantly in motion across geographies, histories, and identities. And it's a powerful meditation on how we exist not just within the recognition, not just within the region, but also time and space, shaping and being shaped by global forces. And then there's something sonic. As always, I try to. I suggest listening to Panic in Babylon by Lee Scratch Perry. It's layered, experimental, and deeply reflective of the kind of creative innovation the Caribbean is known for. The track captures a sense of urgency, disruption, and transformation, reminding us that even in the moments of uncertainty, there is creation, there is movement, and there is possibility. Both of these works, in their own way, push us to think about Caribbean futures not just as something distant, but as something that we are actively creating every day. So definitely check those two out. So as we enter this moment, I want to leave you with a few questions. What does Caribbean American Heritage Month mean to you? How do you celebrate it? Not just culturally, but intentionally. And how can we move from recognition to action? Because honoring the Caribbean is not just about what we've done, it's also about what we're building. And so, with that, thank you so much for tuning in to Strictly Facts, a guide to Caribbean history and culture. Visit our website for the links to our Strictly Facts sounds and other resources. And as always, till next time, lickle more. Thanks for tuning in to Strictly Facts. Visit strictlyfactspod.com for more information on each episode, and you can find all of our social media platforms there to stay connected.